So my journey, honestly, like it's been a wild ride, honestly, because I was born in Florida, and
Okay.
then I moved to this little town called Pahrump, which is like actually an hour away from Las Vegas when I was around 4 or 5. And I was there till about sophomore year of high school. Actually, no, freshman year of high school. After that summer, we moved to North Carolina. And I was there for about 3 years and then went to college in North Carolina. Met my wife. And then, I met my wife at college. And then we moved from North Carolina to Las Vegas. And we were doing that because we thought that she wanted to get into public relations.
Okay.
Because in college, we both actually met through this. It's like the campus activity board that planned the events for the school. She was the head of programming. I was the head of marketing. And she loved doing that. So we thought that's kind of what she wanted to continue doing. And in Vegas is the perfect place to go for events, entertainment, and everything like that. But it turns out she's not doing that now. She's still trying to figure out what she wants to do. But this is where we ended up and started kind of like meeting new friends and figuring things out for us and everything like that. So I've been everywhere, to say that. Been on both sides of the country multiple times.
No, that's cool. It gives you a lot of experience though, and like,
Yeah.
and that's the big thing too, is like, we always talk about expanding your horizons. It's good that you've had this experience. I always feel like successful people that are like really knowledgeable and worldly, like that's where the word comes from. Like they understand different parts and different cultures and stuff like that. And even in the United States, we have like tons of different cultures.
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure. And it's interesting, when I lived in Pahrump, it was like such a bubble. Leaving that bubble and kind of seeing other people's thoughts and viewpoints on certain things really expanded my mind a lot.
Yeah.
So it's been very interesting for my growth as a person, for sure.
I grew up in South Florida, so I know how different like the Fort Lauderdale area can be. And if you go a couple hours north to like North Florida, it's a totally different world.
Oh
So
yeah.
it's like,
Oh yeah.
it's within the same state, it can be so different. It's crazy. Like South Florida is very like cosmopolitan, Miami for a lot, like, and then you go to like, I went to school in Florida and it's like North Florida.
Okay.
And it's very much
Okay.
like, it's like kind of like the South. And so it's just crazy
Yeah.
how different it can be, like a couple hours, like, away. It's nuts.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so how did you get into fandom? Like, I know, so you're really knowledgeable and unique in the sense that you have knowledge and talents when it comes to like movies and like Marvel and things like that, but also like anime as well. And I know they're intertwined. Was there one that came first, and how, like, which one did you get into first? Like, was there a passion that just bubbled up as a kid, or?
They actually kind of both came around the same time, I would say. Because of course there's like Spider-Man, of course, that was everyone's really intro to Marvel, especially in my generation, that really hooked our attention. So I would say in terms of fandom, I guess Marvel technically came first, with Spider-Man and then X-Men, and all those films that came after it. That was kind of like my childhood a little bit. But actually, when it comes to anime, my neighbor actually was really into anime, like Dragon Ball, or other projects. And the weird thing is, like, I knew that was anime from him, but when it came to like, I watched a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh as a kid, a lot of Beyblade, a lot of Digimon, and I never knew that was anime because it was something that was just on like Cartoon Network or Boomerang sometimes, or something, on one of those channels. And it just kind of came on. So I had no idea that was anime, and then I started watching One Piece on like Toonami, and some other things. But I don't think it ever clicked in my mind that any of that was anime, which for me was just cartoons that I like to watch. So I would say that kind of kicked things off for me fandom wise. But like, I want to say Marvel took more precedent over anime, because when it came to anime, I only really watched Dragon Ball and Naruto, really up to almost high school and college. Really, I didn't really know the world that was anime and how much was really out there until my first girlfriend that that was within college. She was really into anime and kind of really showed me everything else there is out there. And that really sparked my interest into learning more about anime, the different anime that's out there, different genres within anime and everything like that. But to answer your question, it's kind of been a mix of both this entire time.
Yeah.
One just kind of taking precedent over the other, and then anime taking precedent over Marvel and kind of going back and forth depending on what's going on, because there's so many things, different things that's being released.
That's cool though. I mean, as you were saying, I was thinking about it's almost like the evolution of like your fandom, right? Like, and obviously that's what happens. Like I was into sports when I was young, and then I always had like, Marvel and comics when I was a kid. And then I feel like it's weird. I feel like a lot of people when they go to college, they kind of like get away from, unless it's the movies and stuff, but like I was super into like conventions and stuff. And then I kind of drifted away, and years later found my way back, and it was really nice to kind of feel like a kid again. It's like fun, but I like how it went with the flow of your life. Like, you said your girlfriend kind of really got you into it. And so you kind of it's like this like thing that bonds you more. And I think Pooja was saying it, her husband is like super into anime and to Marvel. Okay. Watch us together. I feel like it takes a special person to support us who are like super into it. Like my wife is. I'm guessing your wife is really supportive. In all of this.
It's interesting. Actually, there's two parts of the story I want to talk about, and this might come up later. Is like, you said like when you got to college, when people go to college, they kind of drift away from it, and that did happen. And that's part of my story and the message my content. But my wife actually, she's not into anime at all, and she only got into Marvel because she went to see Doctor Strange with me, and she'll watch it here and there, but she's not like, oh, I need to see this movie right now, or here's this theory and all these different things. But actually, when we first met, not really first met, it was more like when she first came over to hang out once. My room was all decked out in fandom things, and I had like I actually bought a sword from this Renaissance festival, and I was like, oh, like I got this sword. And she's like, oh, cool. And it's really interesting because earlier this week, I actually was working with Mini Katana. They sent me some of their swords to kind of promote in a video, and I have an affiliate link and everything. And I went to the room because she was watching TV, and I was like, "Hey, I got this. The swords came in." She's like, "Isn't this full circle?"
That's awesome.
Look at us. 6 years later, you're still showing swords.
That's awesome. I love that. I love that.
She definitely supports me, and I love that about her because, like, obviously, it's one of those things like it could weird some people out how into this kind of stuff that it could weird people out how into what I'm trying to say. You get what I'm trying to say.
Well, I think I've said this all along, and I 100% get what you're saying. I think everyone needs their thing. I stopped working in my previous job, like ABC or whatever, doing, Star Wars or Marvel or whatever. And I remember like watching things like, say, Mandalorian season 2 and seeing the finale with Luke who comes, it's like every fanboy's dream of like seeing Luke just like go to town on, Jedi. And I remember being like, my initial response was like, oh my God, I want to write something or do a video on this. And I wasn't on TikTok back then. And I wasn't working in media, so I couldn't do it. And I remember like the kind of like disappointment and sadness you felt. And so I think like it's everyone does, no matter what it is, like fandoms are fandoms. I think sports and working out is a fandom. Like people are, it's funny.
Oh
like,
yeah, for sure.
Like things that like everything's a fandom. It's something you're into. And like, it could be fashion, or they're all different fandoms that give you that like natural high and that give you that passion. And that's so important in your life. And no matter what it is. And I remember not having that and feeling that. And I think like it's important to support someone you care about in whatever they're passionate about, because it makes you a better, more whole person.
Yeah, for sure. I can say that like wholeheartedly because like she's into The Office and Friends and things like that. And The Office and Friends, like the first couple episodes, it's one of those shows like you just don't. I don't know if it's like you just don't understand the characters enough to understand the jokes. So I was like, this isn't funny, but she'll keep watching it. And then eventually I'll catch an episode like, okay, this makes a little bit more sense. And then I start getting into it more that I know a little bit more from the characters that she's told me about, or I'm just like seeing it for myself now. So it's just interesting. It's really interesting that even if you're with someone who doesn't necessarily share the same passion that you do or fan that you do, you can still find common interest in that if you just take the time to kind of open yourself up to it.
Yeah, it's huge. It's huge. And what would you say some of your favorite things are? I mean, obviously, like you mentioned some of your favorite anime, and also obviously Spider-Man is like the one that it's so related. Yeah. Yes, everyone. Have there been some surprise things along the way that you got into that you're like, oh my God, I never really thought like I would be into this character or this theme or this show
Mm-hmm.
or anything? Is there something that's kind of like caught you by surprise that's taught you something about yourself maybe?
If
Wow,
I'm
that was
being honest, huh?
like, taught you something about yourself. Like, wow, that was deep.
um, I think what is one aspect that's kind of surprised me is like I really enjoy. It's called slice of life, which is basically like in a way it's kind of like rom-coms.
Okay.
But I really enjoy rom-com anime. I don't know what it is about it. It's just very enjoyable. It's very chill. And you find yourself just like rooting for a character. It's like I hope they fall in love with this character. And when they do, it's like, oh my god, you start freaking out. It's like that. Like there's this one show that I really enjoy called Comey Can't Communicate, which is basically set about it's about this girl who's in high school who struggles with social anxiety, which I relate to a whole lot. And kind of seeing her navigate school and make friends and have these really sincere, genuine moments because she works up the courage to say something or do something. It just like it warms my heart because I can relate to it so much. Which so it just really surprised me, especially I guess it's more tied to toxic masculinity that we should like shows about violence or fight sequences and all these different things just be able to find so much enjoyment that's not that is really awesome but also surprising at the same time. When people ask me about it, I'm kind of like I like this one and you probably wouldn't know that or guess that.
You have such insight into
Hmm.
Marvel and have such a knowledge of both. Like
Hmm.
it's insane. What is your process for learning and like that's always I think interesting too because I
Yeah.
think it's always nice to go and come across people and I think there's a handful of people that you learn from, like you,
Hmm.
Mr. Marvelite, like where you're like you watch some videos and you're like, oh, I didn't know it's so cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's your process from like finding that out and like learning and like obviously there's some from
Hmm.
watching and
Hmm.
understanding and then there's some from other people in the community. Are there
Hmm.
things that you dig into to kind of find out really cool things that other people didn't know or
Yeah.
that kind of a thing?
Um, I mean, I think it's tied back to that I've been doing this for so long. I've been like I started in high school, so that was 2013. So I've been going about this 9 years, and I think with that you kind of start to navigate the ropes of like being able to kind of adjust yourself to whatever kind of medium you're kind of talk about. So for me, I jumped from gaming content to comedy sketch blogs to news kind of things to back to gaming to into music and then what I do now on TikTok. And I think a lot of it, I'll just say, like, I don't necessarily have a process. It's just research. Because when it comes to Marvel, per se, I'm not a comic reader at all. I just
Wow.
started getting, yeah, I just started getting into comics recently. Um, but I know when a new character is announced, I know to go to some fandom site and start looking at things, kind of seeing, okay, what's their story, and how does this character relate to some character that's in the MCU? Once you find that connection, you can
Mhm.
start finding some of the comic stories that kind of maybe align with what's happening in the MCU now. And then once you have that, you can start, okay, now I'm going to read this comic, and this comic to kind of pick apart what's happening there and then piece together what's going to happen next. So Moon Knight, for example, I had that video that did really well. That was about the psych ward, I think, and
Mhm.
what happened in the comic. I picked up that comic a week before Moon Knight came out, which is perfect timing because
Yeah, yeah.
it exactly correlated what was happening. But I was able to take parts of the show and then go back to that comic that I just read to kind of put together my own theories, my own thoughts. And the same thing happened with Miss Marvel. I just read the intro comic, and then looked in some things past that to kind of get a sense of what could happen. So a lot of it is just a lot of research.
Okay.
But I think where I shine is that since I've been doing this for 9 years, I have a good sense of being able to take that research and then put it back into my own words and then make a video that's engaging.
And I think you also, it seems like, again, I think Amira fit this. We talked before
Hmm.
about it. Like you seem to like, when you said you were like devouring, almost like, you picked up this comic neck. It seems like you want to know the backstory and you want to know
Yes.
the backstory. You really, really want to know the history behind it. And I think that that comes through when you're talking about something, especially in a short time. Like it's really hard to like I said, like it's hard to get a full, people don't understand if they try to do it, like a full thought or a process within 60 seconds or 2 minutes or whatever it is. And you do it really well. Like you just like,
thank you.
You get this, it's so much information in such a well-developed, well-presented way. So and I think that only comes from really knowing the information. It doesn't matter when, it doesn't matter. Like it's understanding, digesting, and pulling in the information and from whatever it is. And it could be from blogs, it could be from comics, it doesn't matter. That you're condensing and really collating. And that's like a skill that's very hard to master. It's like really well done, but it's also probably shows your desire to understand things and know things and know backstory.
Yeah. Which is that's honestly why when I do my anime stuff on TikTok, why it's all kind of fact-based is because I just really enjoy researching these characters and kind of getting a sense of who they are, what they've been through, and everything like that, and then representing that information, not to teach someone else that same information. So I think, that's, I just enjoy it a lot. It's a lot of fun. It gives me fulfillment.
Cool. That's awesome. And speaking of fulfillment, we got to talk about, so everyone has their thing, like not only their thing that they're passionate about, their thing to collect. And like, you mentioned obviously comics isn't a thing that you are big into, but I do see obviously some anime stuff. Is there something that you collect that you're super proud of, that you're super happy with? Because again, there's always a story behind those, right? Like, it's not just items, it's stuff that has meaning to you. Is there something, I know people, there's Funkos people collect, there's other things. What there's something that you collect that really has like a lot of meaning to you and to your journey?
I think there's two. I think I have two items. I have let me see what's back here. I have a bunch of Nightwing comics actually.
That's awesome.
And I haven't read really any of them, but I bought them when I was with my ex, and it was when I was like really starting to get into fandom a lot more. And I think that's why I still have them. I have them on my shelf really, is because like they're really representative of me, like really kind of like taking ownership of who I am and the things I'm interested in, and actually buying stuff that I really enjoy. So I have a bunch of Nightwing comics. He's my favorite DC character. And then I have, which I didn't necessarily buy, I just got, but I'm so proud of them, are these swords from Mini Katana. And awesome. I don't know, I find it just really cool that someone wanted to send me something, and to be sent something so cool like this, it is really awesome. And I think it's like it's like a physical item that represents how like the work I've done, and like my determination, and like being willing to go through all the hardships, the failures, the anxiety, and all the other problems that came with it. To go through all those different bumps in the road and still be here and doing what I love. And right now, seeing success from that, this is kind of like the item that's like, I got this because I've been doing this for so long, and I'm super proud to have these.
That's awesome.
I can't stop opening them and stuff like that.
I mean, that's amazing. I think like, man, that's a great way to put it too. And it really represents like the success and the drive and the knowledge and the talent. I also imagine, because you're very open on your TikTok as well, but also like, again, knowledgeable, you cover so many bases. But I also imagine, and this will lead us into, when we talk about anime onlys, like you must get amazing correspond. I mean, there's always bad things about social media. We're not going to dig into that, but you must get amazing like things on social from people, from fans, in addition to guys, obviously, these places that want to send you things for being who you are. You must also get like these like intangible, almost intangible, I would say gifts, like where you're like, someone's like, oh my God, I love that perspective, or, oh, this meant something to me, or that, like, I'm sure there must be a few stories that like really have stuck with you, that like, wow, like it really, what I'm doing really affects people in a positive way. Cause that's an amazing feeling as well. When you have like affected people, whether it's knowledge, whether it's
Mm-hmm.
emotion, whether it's education, like whatever it is. I mean, that's such
Yeah.
an intangible thing.
Yeah, for sure. It's like it's one of those things that it's like I can't believe. It's like I see those comments sometimes and like my brain doesn't necessarily like comprehend it, I guess. It's like they said it and it's like that means a lot. Thank you so much. But like in turn it's like, huh? You know? And it gives reason to what I do, honestly. The comments of people saying, "Oh, you're my favorite TikToker," or you know, you I was having a really bad day and seeing your video made me smile. It's those little things that are really representation of what I try to do with my content. And what's really like kind of like the basis behind it, right? Just kind of go into like my own personal story. It's like I said earlier that I got really into fandom and then I wasn't for a bit. And I was going through after me and my ex broke up and I was like going through a lot of anxiety and a lot of depression because like the way I described it was like I gone through stuff and never really dealt with that stuff. And then getting into a relationship, it was like something took the lock that was there, took the key, opened it, and everything poured out. And I didn't know how to deal with anything. So there was like, well, I was still into Marvel, I was still into fandom, but I didn't talk about it as much. I don't believe I was still going to the movies and everything with my friends and everything, but it wasn't like how it is now per se. Um, and I was going through this depression for a couple of years. And then after I graduated from college and we moved to another apartment and everything like that, I started watching anime again. But really watching it, like really getting to different anime and getting back into Marvel more. And part of that is the reason because I got into music. And the big thing with music was like, yeah, you have music, but who are you as the artist? That's what people want to know. And I had to ask myself that question. It's like, okay, who am I as the artist making this music? Like I talk about anxiety and depression through those things I'm writing, but like, who am I beyond that? And I was like, well, I'm a nerd. So maybe I should get back into that. And I kind of, I'm kind of jumping all around the story, but I equate social media and my mental health journey one and the same. Because to have success on social media, you have to be okay mentally.
Yeah.
And every time I had like a stride or a win or accomplishment in social media, because my mental health wasn't there, it all fell apart because either I blew it up no, actually not most time, all the time because I blew it up because I felt like, oh, these numbers aren't great. I need to be doing better. So I stop this channel and jump on another one and then find success there. And it's like, oh man, I shouldn't have never left the old thing. Let me go back to that. And when I decided that I wanted to do music, that was the first sure thing that I feel like I wanted to do. And I equate that journey, no matter it fails, honestly.
I don't think, I mean, I'll stop you right there that nothing's a failure. Like, I think it's always a learning process and not to get like too mushy or whatever.
That's exactly what it was.
Yeah.
Because my mental health journey during that process was terrible. At the same time, if I didn't go on that music journey, I wouldn't be here. Because I learned a lot. I stopped doing social media finally for a period of time just to kind of get myself together. But through that journey, I refound my love for Marvel. I refound my love for anime, and I refound my love for creating content again.
Yeah.
Which gets me back to where I am now. And what I try to do is like I just want to create content and create a space that people can feel safe in. I want them to be able to watch my content and like see me smile or see me laugh. Even if I'm having the most terrible day, I will find the energy to smile on camera and kind of bring some energy to it because I know that someone's watching this video is going to feel better after watching it, no matter what it is I talk about. And I think being able to tie that message and that pillar into facts about anime characters is so special because so many people find comfort in certain characters. So if I can give them another piece of information that they don't know about, so they know more about their favorite character, which gives them comfort already, it's very special, which is the reason behind everything I do. Now it's like I just want to give people more information about their favorite characters because I know at the end of the day, that little piece of information, knowing more about their favorite character, It's gonna help them get through whatever they're going through at the moment.
Wow, dude. Like chills, man. No, I mean, look, I will say, and I'm not going to make it about me at all, but like, just to let you know, like how relatable and understanding that is, like, and, you know, I went through something similar, in the sense that, and again, it's not about me, but like, just to let you know, like it's total understanding what you're saying 100%. And I think it shows through what you do. Like, again, you said the smile thing, like the second ever since I saw your content, I was like, man, this guy is so good and so happy and so positive and so knowledgeable. And everything you said is like, just resonates fully. I mean, I went through something where I got sick and it was also combined with a breakup. It's always combined with a breakup, right? Like,
Yeah.
but it also, like, I was going through stuff like physically and mentally that I didn't know like how to handle. But what really resonated with me was, like you said, that whole journey brought you to where you are now. Same exact thing. And I'm actually surprised that I was able to succinctly say that and not ramble on. But like, no, like I think the past relationship helped me handle my current one, which is, you know, my wife, like so much better. And I also appreciate everything we're doing now so much more, and have like, and like, you know, like I was doing it on a bigger stage and doing it for like a network. And like, I don't think until like years later, I fully understood like how much that was like the best time of my life doing these things. And, you know, with my friends and like covering this and covering that. And I think it leads you to really kind of, you know, if you ebb and flow away from something and you come back to it, it makes that much more of like, you know, this is what I'm not going to put this away anymore. You know, like I'm going to focus on it, make it mine and really enjoy it. But also like what you're doing, and I'll commend you for, is like is just making other people's day better, which is really hard to do. It's really hard to do because we all go through the ups and downs. And it's really hard to always think about other people when you're doing that and going through that. And so, yeah, I mean, I just, like I said, I can't say enough, man. Like, keep doing what you're doing. And like,
Thanks.
It's just incredible. And the fact, and your mindset, and is just amazing. And then I don't know how to pivot away from that, because that was an amazing story. We got to talk about anime onlys, obviously.
Yes.
And I think this does easily pivot, because obviously you're always thinking about yourself, but also other people in the community that you respect and like and are passionate about. And, you know, obviously you're trying to create a safe space for anime fans, which fits into everything. It's people's mental health and being supportive and not, you know, so I want to hear more about your vision and more about like your passion behind that. So I'm going to give you the stage to, and I'm going to shut up.
I think anime onlys, it's you know, through the whole entire content creation journey, I've always wanted to create something of my own. And you know, originally that was a YouTube channel, which then went to making music. And then, you know, when I jumped on TikTok, it wasn't to create anything, honestly. I did it because the people in my music group I was in, like the community I was in, like, oh, we should jump on TikTok because TikTok is great to push music out there. And I was like, okay. So I did one video and then I didn't post for 5 months because I had no idea what I wanted to do. And, you know, the jump into anime it wasn't to like build a community or anything. It was just something fun. And it turned into something, which is interesting. It's like when you don't force something, everything you've been looking for will come with it. And that's honestly what happened with this. And the next step for me in that process is, okay, I make this anime content, but how can I make something that lasts? Not only for me, so long term, I'm not, you know, creating content for the next 25 years, trying to find energy to be on camera, you know, but for my family and just for the community as a whole. You know, what's going to be the thing that I can make my mark in this community, and that was anime onlys. And it's kind of the easy transition for my own content. Still, I want to create a safe place for everyone, where they can go and feel safe to be in this fandom, because a lot of times they don't. Because if you express that a character is my favorite character, then someone else who's like, oh, my character is this favorite character, he'll beat your character sucks. And it's like, well, they didn't ask for any of that. They just wanted to say, this is my favorite character. Or if you say, oh, I believe this character is the strongest character in anime, and it's like, oh, well, this character beats them, and this is the reason why I don't want to hear anything else. Conversation shut down. And then there's the sexism. When it comes the sexism, then there just comes the racism, because there's a lot of POC cosplayers who just love to cosplay, but then will get completely dragged down because this character is not that race and you shouldn't do this, 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 this. And it's like they're just trying to express their love for a character that they find comfort in. It's not, it's not that big of a deal. So there's a lot of toxicity within the fandom. There's even just in terms of like certain shows. I've heard a lot about like the My Hero Academia fandom, and I can't specify exactly what it is because I haven't seen it myself, but I know a lot of people stopped watching the show because of the fandom itself.
That's a shame.
Yeah, and the show is amazing. Like I saw one of my friends that is also a TikTok creator. He's like, you guys lied to me about My Hero Academia because I'm watching this now and it's just so good. The main character is so good, but the issue is the fandom. The fandom just ruins it for everybody. And I can't specify exactly what it is, but it's something I'm going to find out. Because when it comes to anime onlys, people who like My Hero Academia, they should be able to talk about My Hero without feeling like they're going to be attacked for something. So that's the overall goal, and it's already evolving because originally the plan was to we have the website NerdInitiative, we have the website, we have a lot of content on the website, and when I announced anime onlys only 2 weeks after we came up with the idea that we're going to do this, everyone, the one thing that was a through line was that we want somewhere that we can actually talk about our fandoms without being attacked. It wasn't about content because content is everywhere. They just want a place they can talk about it and feel safe doing that. They can talk to their friends about it, meet new people and talk about it. It's already evolving. It's like, okay, so we need to shift our focus from content to just creating a space that they feel safe in. But that's the main goal behind it, is just have a place that people can feel safe and feel free to really be themselves.
Yeah.
And that goes back to the mental health journey of trying to figure out who you are in this ginormous world and not feeling like you have to be a certain way to fit in with other people. Feeling like you can't talk about certain things because someone's going to ridicule you for liking A, B, C, or D fandom. There's enough of that. There's enough of that going on. So that if we can create something where people can just feel safe and being themselves, that is the legacy that I want to leave.
That's awesome. That's so well said too. I mean, I think like there's so much to unpack there, but so well said. Like, obviously you have Star Wars and you have other places like that.
Oh my gosh.
It just doesn't make sense because the whole essence of what it is, like you said, fandom is a place, the essence of what these things are supposed to be is a place where people can, aggregate, have like-minded people, have fun, enjoy it. It's not real. It's not life or death. We're not, and it can be fun and enjoyable, and you can have constructive debates where it's like, oh, I like this character, I didn't like that, or this or that, but no labeling, no attacking. I mean, I think
exactly
the story that I always tell that really resonated with me from the other spectrum was I was making a video and I made a joke about Daredevil, the Ben Affleck movie Daredevil, and I always talk about that one where I made some kind of joke about like multiverse madness, where there was a rumor. And I was like, oh, I'm so excited for these cameos, except for Ben Affleck, like whatever, something like that or whatever. But someone commented, and I think this is the thing, and I'm not praising myself in any which way, but someone commented about it and said, hey, that something to the tune of like, that movie got me through a lot. And it was there when I needed it. And like, I know it gets a lot of hate, but I loved it. And my response immediately was like, oh, well, then that's amazing. And like, I don't think but I said something like to the tune of like, that's amazing. And you've got a supporter in me. Like, if that, whatever it is, means something to you, like, who is anyone to tell you any differently or
Right.
make you feel weird about liking something or being able to talk about it or having an opinion about something.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And I want to add to that because like it's like the experience you have of sharing with others what you love and finding that joy and that connection. But I think it's also the things you find within those projects that you love as well. The stories, the experiences that you can relate to, which is why I love fandom so much. And I think it's why so many people love fandom so much is that they can find, especially like with Miss Marvel, for example.
Yes.
Like the people right now are feeling seen because they have someone on screen that looks like them. Yet you still have people saying, "Oh, it's not that deep. It's not about that." When it really is, because every show has an underlying message underneath it.
Yeah.
It's not prevalent. It's not the main focus, but it's underneath it. And there's no, just like you're talking about, you shouldn't take away from someone's liking of a character or a moment or their opinion. You shouldn't take away from the experiences that people have had and they find connection within these shows.
Exactly. I actually want to, like, I mean, I think, God, we didn't even talk about Miss Marvel. I didn't realize. No, I mean, I want to talk a little bit about that because it's the last thing to talk about. But I think like, because representation is so important, right? And in anime and Marvel, in everything. I love Miss Marvel, but if I hadn't, I still would have loved the response that I've seen as a human being on social media.
Yes.
And like seeing our friends like Amira and Pooja and other people speak out about, tearing up in the finale and the relationship with the mom and the dad's my favorite character from day one, but the dad, and then like that is such a beautiful thing. And and no one should ever stomp that out. That is a beautiful thing that people should celebrate, whether you relate to it or not. You're seeing other people, and we saw it with Black Panther years ago. I remember I went to, and I'm going to shut up and let you speak in a second. Like,
no, you're good. You're good.
I went to a Black Panther screening when it first came out with at our company. It was the Ben was hosting it, which is the Black Empowerment Network, and so it was the passion and celebration from obviously, which is like a very incredible film.
Yeah.
But like seeing the reaction and like you have to love that as a person and being like, oh my God, someone is really enjoying this and like it means so much to them. And aside from me just enjoying the film, like how can you not enjoy someone like getting that fulfillment out of it? So I definitely want to get your take on Miss Marvel and what you felt and what you thought by watching it and what it's meant to.
I think overall, like on the surface level, as a Marvel fan, I loved it because it was just fun. And as Iman said herself, while they changed certain aspects of the character in terms of her powers, at the root of it, it's still her. It's still the Miss Marvel that fans have fell in love with in the comics, and everything else really shouldn't matter. And that was kind of like her words. And that's kind of my viewpoint on it too, is like, this was just a fun project that allowed us to learn about this character in a very unique way, both creatively, but also her portrayal of Kamala Khan. That leaves us with a whole lot of questions coming out of it. The general sentiment I've seen across the board is like, if you slept on this show, you missed out on something special, because episode 6 just opened the door wide open to what is the future of the MCU now that we have mutants. And what does that mean? How is that going to look? My biggest question, X-Men 97. I know it's a continuation of the 90s cartoon. So now the question is, are we looking at X-Men from a different Earth? Are we looking at the X-Men have been here all along and maybe Professor X did something to wipe everyone's memory? And so there's so many questions about it, right? So like, as a Marvel fan, I'm to the moon of like, okay, what's next? This is so exciting. But on a personal level, I loved it. I think I expressed this on one of our panels for Miss Marvel, but while I don't know religiously what I am at the moment, I grew up Muslim. I was born Muslim. To see someone on screen that is Muslim and not have it be a flip-sided story where we're introduced to this loving character who is Muslim and da 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 da. But some reason, episode 4, halfway through the movie, they do something and now they're the villain, or they're the one good, I guess, representation of who a Muslim is, and they get killed.
Yeah.
And there's okay, that's the end of their story. But to kind of see a fully fleshed out story that celebrates both Islam, but also the Southeast East Asian community. I want to make sure I got that right.
Yeah.
Okay. That represents that community is really special because we don't have that here. We don't have that anywhere in media. So to see that is really meaningful. And also, although I'm not Southeast Asian as a former Muslim, I can relate to a lot of what happened in the show and the little conversations that Kamala shared with her mom and her dad. To actually see them go into a mosque and see them praying, and seeing that aspect that a lot of people don't see because it's behind closed doors and like, oh, what happens in there? That's probably where they plan stuff. Like, no, that's where people go to pray and feel safe and feel loved. And it's just as simple as that. But also, the takeaways from it right now is like, I'm really happy that it highlighted on the troubles that the community face. That although a mosque should be a safe place of worship, at the same time, it's not, because every government agency likely does have eyes on this mosque, trying to figure out what's happening, if anything's happening. And to also see the DODC walk in there, and everyone already has their IDs out. It's like, oh yeah, this happens. I haven't experienced it. I don't think my mom has, but of course, that's a common thing that likely happens in the state, because all media, if something's written to show, it's happened somewhere. It's happened to someone. It's someone's story. So to see those little bits and pieces put into the show, and as Amira said so many times, and what her takeaway was as well, it's like this, while the show is about a girl finding her place in America, it's also about a community trying to find their place as well.
Yeah.
And it is about Islamophobia. It's about immigration. It's about all these different things they face, and especially Kamran. He was, in those final moments, he was yelling like, "How am I going to fit in? I'm not normal." And that's there's two different layers to that. There's, on the surface, he's talking about his powers and how he's going to fit in when he's already being targeted, but he's also talking about himself as a person, because the only people he knows is his mom and the clandestine.
Yeah.
And that's now gone. He has no safe place in this world. So he's really, like Amira said so many times, he's really yelling, "How do I fit in here? They already hate me for how I look and who I am. And now I have these powers on top of it." It's, oh man, I'm trying not to, I feel myself tearing up, because it's like, it reminds me of me as a child, of being Muslim, and I wore a kufi all the time, which is much like a headwear. And people would always ask me, "Oh, why do you wear that?" And da 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 da. Like, I stood out compared to all my classmates in the entire community, the entire world. And also those worries about my mom being Muslim. She always goes out in full hijab. So like, there's always going to be preconceptions about her, and I pray that nothing ever happens to her because of her faith. So just kind of see those moments highlighted in the show, while it's under the surface, it's still there. And as we talked about earlier, we're talking about other people's experiences. Just because you don't necessarily see these things happening doesn't mean it doesn't happen. It doesn't happen to you, thankfully, but it happens to someone else. And this should be the moment that you see these things happening and see these representations in media and start to ask questions of, okay, I see this happens in the show. Does this actually happen in real life? And if it does, what happens? Like, what's your story?
Yeah.
So that person can start to educate themselves more about what else is in the world.
Exactly. And I mean, from an outsider's perspective too, like, I have learned so much from like talking to you, talking to Amira, listening, and just being like, and there's just you just become a better person from learning someone else's like experience and someone else's perspective. And it's so important to do that. And it's like, and what she said, they're not replacing or taking away. It's an addition of a story, a different perspective. And it's just creating a more complete overall story of whatever it is.
Right.
of the world we live in. And same thing goes,
Right.
like it needs it, you don't want to have this like vacuum. You want to have something that, you know, that people are educated and understand different cultures and perspectives, and should be celebrated. Not again, not
Right.
not just told, but celebrated and been like, oh, this is the beauty of what this is or what that is,
Mhm.
or anything.